Okay, I thought I'd talk really quick about this Gabby Petito case. Obviously, this case is bizarre on many levels, but it's also really intrigued me because I spend a lot of time in Jackson running the trails, and I've done wilderness medicine and search and rescue and things like that. So I thought I'd just kind of cover some interesting pieces of evidence here really quick. So I'm just going to kind of go over the last couple days that we know about. So on August 25th at around 6 p.m. in the evening, there was a husband and wife who say that they saw the white van in the parking lot at the main lot at Jenny Lake. They talked about how they thought that it would be a good van to travel in, but they didn't see anyone there. August 25th is also the last day that we know that Gabby posted to Instagram, although the post was not location tagged, unlike most of her other posts. And it's also the 25th is the last verified communication to the mother via FaceTime. Then in Victor, Idaho, a worker at a convenience store claims to have seen the couple either on August 25th or 26th, saying that the couple had said they had just visited the Tetons and that they were headed to Yellowstone, which is strange because you can drive from Jenny Lake straight up towards Yellowstone very easily and quickly, but it appears that the couple was taking this roundabout way that would go through West Yellowstone, and so it doesn't seem like the typical route. Then on August 27th at about 10 p.m., there are some claims that the couple was seen at a bar in Ashton, Idaho, and that they asked about getting a rental in Island Park, just outside of Yellowstone. So this again confirms this sort of roundabout pathway, and there doesn't seem to be any other conflicting information of other locations at this time. The 27th of August is also the last communication from Gabby's phone. We don't know for sure if it was her, but it seems to be because she tells a friend that she's headed to Yellowstone and apparently was going to meet this friend in Yellowstone. But the couple never shows up in Yellowstone, and that was very concerning to this friend. So something about their itinerary seems to be really thrown off on the 28th of August, and we don't have any other sightings or witnesses that I know of at this time until the 29th, where we have a really key witness. So in the evening of August 29th, a couple talks to Brian in the parking lot at Coulter Bay and gives him a ride in their Jeep at 5:44 p.m. The girl who's in the passenger seat in the Jeep is texting her mother and has these text messages documented. So at 5:44 they pick up this hitchhiker, and he asks to go to Jackson. So the couple starts driving the Jeep south down the 191 highway, and it appears that they took the Teton Park Road, which is the more scenic road that goes through the national park and down to Jackson. This is opposed to staying on the 191 freeway, which also goes down to Jackson in just a little different way. And so the girl says something about going to Jackson Hole, and Brian starts getting anxious, panicked, and wants to get out immediately. Now, it may be that he actually saw that they took a different road than he thought, and needed to go on the 191 highway to be dropped off, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the witness claims that it was something about saying Jackson Hole that made him panic. So there's a lot of possible scenarios here of why he misunderstood Jackson Hole from Jackson. But I don't think we should get fixated on that because it may have just been the route that was different. So he may have thought that Jackson Hole referred to the Jackson Hole Resort at Teton Village. He may have thought Jackson Hole was the city of Jackson, but that Jackson was something else. There's also the possibility that he may have originally asked to go to Ashton and not Jackson, but the girl in the Jeep heard it as Jackson. So something is clearly weird and off here. Um, and the other thing that doesn't make sense is that Brian claims that he's been hiking and camping on his own, but he has almost no supplies and is clean and fresh, possibly from cleaning himself up at Coulter Bay, where there are showers and things, but could be a variety of other things going on there. For example, it's unlikely that he was actually gone for a few days, since he seems to be accounted for just 2 days prior. But regardless, the couple drops him off at Jackson Lake Dam, and he claims he's going to hitchhike a ride to this other place, this other destination. Now, the other really useful piece of information here is that Gabby kept a publicly available listing of her campsites on the Dyrt app, DYRT. And on there, she has marked several campsites around Jackson, including the Grassy Lake campsite, which is up off the Ashton Flag Road that cuts straight east from where she was last seen at a bar in Ashton, Idaho. It cuts straight east and hooks up to the 191 freeway. This might be a plausible site for where Brian had left the van, because when he's picked up in the Jeep, he seems to realize he's going the wrong direction. So could it have been that he wanted to go back north instead of south, possibly asking to go to Ashton, or what he thought was Ashton? It's a possibility. For example, another thing that aligns with that is the fact that the Snake River is both north and south of Coulter Village, and he may not have realized where he was exactly. Now, this seems unlikely because the mountains there are majestic and tall and very clearly give you a landmark and orientation point regardless of where you're facing. So I think a more plausible possibility here is that there's another campsite that Gabby had marked on the Dyrt app, and that is called Spread Creek. And there's another one very close to it called Upper Teton View. Both of these are just a little south of the pickup point at Coulter Village where Brian was picked up, but they're on the 191 highway, not on the Teton Park Road that is the more scenic view. And what really supports this theory is that there are two elk spotters who were out on the 29th of August who claim to have seen a white van just like that of Gabby and Brian, which was parked at the Spread Creek camp. And at the time that they made this statement, they were unaware about anything about other witness statements, or that Gabby had even pinned this site on her Dyrt app. And so this really seems like another key witness statement that is placing the van at the Spread Creek camp. And this actually makes a lot of sense about why Brian freaked out when the couple in the Jeep took him down the more scenic road through Grand Teton National Park. He needed to go down the 191 highway to get back to Spread Creek where the van had been left. So to summarize here just really quick, whatever disaster unfolded here seems to have happened sometime between the night of August 27th until 5:45 p.m. on August 29th. And if we had to speculate on the most likely location of Gabby Petito, it would have to be somewhere in that region between Spread Creek and Coulter Village. And the way that Brian described having been walking up the Snake River, camping on the Snake River, things like that, it might actually be very plausible that he's adding an element of truth in there. Maybe he really did walk from Spread Creek up the Teton River, and possibly had a different set of clothes, possibly with evidence on them. And he made it all the way up, either partway in the river, partway on a few trails that exist there, though not great ones, or possibly along the road itself, made his way up to Coulter Village, discarded his clothing, changed into fresh clothes, showered, and then hitchhiked back to the van at Spread Creek Camp. Now, there are a lot of possible variations here. I should point out that on the Dirt app there were other campsites as well. Down closer to the city of Jackson itself, there's Curtis Canyon camping and Fall Creek Road camping, both marked on the app. And we don't know. There's a lot of speculation that can be put in here. For example, was Brian hiding Gabby at some point on the 28th to the 29th, possibly up the Snake River, heading toward Coulter Village, or had he already hidden the body, for example, in the area around Spread Creek, and he was trying to create an alibi for himself by hiking on this unusual route up to Coulter Village and then trying to be seen, and hitchhiking back down to the camp at Spread Creek. But then something threw him off with the Jeep taking the wrong route and then having to get new people to hitchhike further to where the van was. We don't really know. Or could it be true what he says, that he left Gabby to do her work and that he just went on this sort of unusual expedition without supplies and things? Maybe they had gotten in an argument and so he had left, and then when he returned, she was missing, or he assumed the worst and wanted to protect himself and drove full speed straight back to Florida in order to arrive at the time that he did on September 1st. Between the evening of the 29th and September 1st is the only time he would have had to drive all that distance. He would have had to practically do it on no sleep. And the one other witness that we have here that could be critical is someone saying that they saw him on the 29th at 11 p.m. at a gas station in Jackson, cursing to himself, frustrated, talking to himself, and discarding trash. So if that's true, it appears that he would have driven back through Jackson on the late evening of the 29th and had to have driven almost the entire way back to Florida with very little sleep in order to arrive at the time that he did on September 1st. The only other evidence that we have in that interval is a text message from Gabby's phone to her mother saying no service in Yosemite, and that appears to either be a typo or an autocorrect error that was referring to Yellowstone actually. And either way, her mother says this certainly doesn't seem like her at all. So it seems that that would have most likely just been sent by Brian himself. So I think this lays out just a brief summary of kind of the main evidence and the best evidence that we have publicly available, and sort of fits some plausible theories here. Now we have cold, wet weather moving in, and so time is of the essence if we're going to be able to find this wonderful human being, Gabby Petito.